So hey, okay.
All right.
So we're not going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about a couple series out there
That are binge worthy and not so much.
binge worthy. So the one I want to talk about is called Hunters. I don't know if you've seen the ads for this. So spoiler alerts as always. Like there's always going to be spoilers. It's set in like the 70s and it's talking about.
Wait, is that about Nazis? I did want to see that.
So just warning, like it's a great show. Very well acted. I'm so impressed with like how the actors are doing this. But like there are some scenes in there that are just crazy. Like the first scene is like this couple shows up at the barbecue. They're supposed to be like in Washington D.C. and it's like,
wait, is that the one that was on the commercial, like the ad? Like
I don't know, maybe.
And then she's like, not that guy.
Yeah, and then she freaks out, and then like the Nazi like gives it right back. And I'm sitting there like, oh, like wow, like.
No, I didn't
seriously like goes, and there's several scenes like that where the Nazis they're trying to kill go like say like crazy shit.
Really?
So, yeah, but it's again so well acted because again
But are the Nazis turning the table and saying that person is lying or?
No, there's like saying like so like that one scene he like basically just like calmly like pulls out a gun, kills everybody, and leaves her alive, and then he starts saying, you know,
all the horrible
things that you would think somebody that does that would say, and you're just I'm sitting there like that's the first scene, and I'm sitting there going, holy shit. And again, like the actor, I don't know his name, but he's well known character actor in a lot of television.
Let me guess, is he blonde?
He is.
Okay.
And so like again, it's impressive. Like I don't know how they get themselves up to say shit like that.
I couldn't do it.
It's like,
you couldn't pay me enough.
Right. I was just uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah.
And so then for them to be acting that, and like several actors throughout are like that.
Wow.
Like, and so I'm just like super impressed. Like it's crazy show.
And then you know how like when you had learned something that you really want to forget because it was like a bad part of your life, so you purposely try to forget it, but it's the only thing that you remember after all of the years.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if he's just hearing that monologue over and over again for like 20 years.
It's interesting, right? Because like we roughly the same age, but we grew up learning that history, and then to see it kind of played out in action, to get like they really make you feel that mindset of how evil those people really were. And so it's uncomfortable. Like I was like, oh.
Well, but when we were growing up, and the books that I was reading about it, and everything that was like mandatory literature, or just to give you a feel of it, it was about the physical things that were done to people, but not like actors weren't saying the things.
Right, and this does that. And so both sides, right? So like you very strongly get the feeling about the mindset for how they were committing genocide, and the hate and like the crazy, stupid things that they was. And then on the flip side, all the actors that are like, so Al Pacino's in it, and a couple other actors that are playing the opposite side, how strongly they feel that like never again. This is what they deserve. This is God's work to kill these people. They get back and get revenge and stuff. And like you're sitting there like, holy shit! Like it's again very well acted, very heavy. So if you're gonna watch it, be aware that it's very heavy.
Like 1917. I know you haven't seen it yet, right?
But yeah, it's like emotionally like heavy. It's not something you want to just sit there and like, you know,
like put it on at a barbecue.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, to me at least.
Invite friends over. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, like they show how they torture people, and stuff like that. Like it's just crazy.
Well, in 1917, it's interesting because it's not about Nazis, but there is this German soldier that's placed in it briefly, and it's interesting because my immediate reaction was just like, get him, get him, get him. And then this person was showing them compassion. And I'm hearing like, you're a fool, like in my head. And then I start thinking that like, it's true that a lot of them were helping. They didn't want to actively be going in this way. They were like drafted in. They felt like they had to.
They were conscripted.
Yeah.
There were some soldiers that were conscripted. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, they were actively like working against it. But it's interesting that my first reaction is like, they're all evil. And so.
But this. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's interesting psychologically because you would like to think that something that evil you would stand up and say something against. You know, let's see, even if something crazy happened in the U.S.
But if they're threatening your families and if they're...
Yeah, like, I don't know. Right, but you'd like to think that enough people would stand up and go, "Hey, wait a minute!"
Or you try to get out.
like
Anything.
marching all these people in here.
Oh
to,
God,
like,
no!
Like, and
I might opt out.
yeah, so it's gonna be crazy.
And then, speaking of all evil, circling back to Overlord, which we saw last year.
Because you were to explain, you were sick,
I was very sick last weekend.
and so then you've been you watched.
Well, because
you're watching stuff, but then so you watched Overlord.
Because I watched it with my husband last year, and then I took you like the next day, and we went to go see it. And then, so I was really sick on last Sunday, so I watched it again because I'm like, I remember this being really good. And I'm like, oh my God, this was so good. So then on Monday, I'm like, my son's old enough to watch this. So then we watched it, and he loved it so much. But I know why you don't like it now. It's because it was J.J. Abrams. And I know that you are not a fan.
I'm not a fan of JJ. I didn't know he did it. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff wrong with it. There's a lot of stuff that's just bullshit.
No, I loved every moment of it. I loved how ridiculously overacted the evil Nazi guy with half of a face was. It was just a great movie.
It's not a great movie.
And I was reading the Rotten Tomatoes, because I'm like, it can't just be me. I mean, I was on like a lot of Dayquil, but it was really good again. So I started looking at the Rotten Tomatoes, and they're like, well, you have to really look at this movie because this is about the key character, the lead role is a black man who is the one who is fighting against the Nazi regime. And he is like finding that inner strength. Like he was the one who at the beginning of the movie, he couldn't kill a mouse because, they're a little overdramatic with the plot. And he couldn't kill the mouse in the barracks. And then like he goes on to save everybody and to bring down the system. So it's like, if you're fine with like the really broad strokes, super violent action without a lot of thinking, which I of course am.
Yeah.
Tiny brain, tiny head. Then, I enjoy it. You just have to turn your brain off, but he doesn't have an off switch.
Nope.
And then I watched, well, obviously, circling back to Scrubs was amazing, but we'll talk about that because you haven't seen Scrubs, right?
I've seen it. I never got it, though.
So good. Witcher, I'm watching for the second time.
So I haven't seen it the first time yet.
I saw the books on sale at Barnes & Noble, translated from Polish.
I can't remember if I tried to watch it, and I was just kind of like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, yeah,
Right?
that is...
So I was kind of like, because a lot of my watching, and my bosses probably won't like this, but a lot of my watching, I'm like, if I'm working on a spreadsheet or something, I'll have the television on in the background.
Well, because you're smart enough to be able to do two things wonderfully at the same time.
That's
except for this show.
what I'm doing. So
because
that's
this show, you can't do that.
That's where sometimes when they do it, I'm kind of like, what's going on again?
Well, it's because it's jumping hundreds of years. Like this scene is 200 years in the future, this one. But they aren't explaining it.
So yeah, if it's too much of that, or if it's too many foreign languages, then I can't.
Oh, with subtitles and things?
Yeah, the subtitles, because I'm working on something. I can't like read the subtitles, what's going on.
And see what's going on at the same time.
Some Chinese or Japanese, and I sort of understand what's going on.
Yeah. Well, in this one, I got like 7 episodes in, and then I'm like, I think I'm crazy. Like, isn't that person dead? And I'm like, I'm paying 100% of attention. I have no idea what's going on. So I get to episode 7. And I had to Google it, and it's like, I Googled, like, is anyone else confused with the timeline of Witcher? And, like, all of these threads popped open, and yeah, it's because it's jumping, like, 500 years in the past to now 200 years ago, and now, and then 5 minutes ago, and then now, and it's just all these different perspectives, so you have to be aware of that before you start watching it.
That's probably what screws me up.
Yeah, and you have to explain that to everybody that you're recommending sees Witcher, because otherwise they think that you're crazy for getting them in it.
Okay.
And
What
then
else?
Lock and Key. I'm
What's
on
that on?
Netflix.
Okay.
It's based on a graphic novel, unlike The Witcher, which was the 7 books, I think, in Polish, that the video game was based on. But no, Lock and Key is based on a graphic novel. I do a lot of research into the things that I like, and it's really good. It's a little dark, but not a kid's show. They kind of made it look like a kid's show. It's more like a very dark version of, like, Narnia. But it's really trippy. Like, I love shows where you just never thought of that before. You never would have thought of that. It's just somebody did, and it's just beautiful to watch. It's like, oh man, I never thought of that. It's a great moment.
All right, I'll try and watch that sometime.
I think you'll like it. Anything else you've been watching?
Not really.
Ooh, and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Nope.
Love it. It reminds me of my childhood watching Sabrina.
Has nothing.
Oh, I did watch something last night I wasn't a fan of, which you'll probably like, knowing you.
What's that?
The Mr. Rogers movie.
No.
Didn't you say you watched on the flight?
No, I'll probably watch it on the flight coming up.
Okay. It was Well, no real spoilers. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole movie, I get disappointed by things like that because, like, I work really, really hard to try to be as nice as possible and vegetarian, and I try to always give good energy. And then you have somebody like Mr. Rogers, and he does that. And I feel like the whole point of the movie is to try and spread that to the people who watch it and to, like, give them that spark.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people are going to take that away. And I think they're just going to think, oh, it's a good movie. But the whole point of the movie is, like, his whole point is to see things and to help people and to be a better person yourself.
Yeah,
so people don't.
Actual nice person,
Yes,
played by like a really nice guy too.
Yeah, and so then it just pisses
And
me
that
off.
just pisses you off.
It does, because, well, one, the whole story is about him and this guy that just is obviously going through a lot of shit in his life, and he's in a really dark place, and he's not tapped into any of his emotions except for, like, frustration and anger, and he feels like a void because of what he's gone through. And it's about, through, like, just having normal contact with Mr. Rogers, how he changes throughout the course of the movie to be, like, a fulfilled person at the end, just by just having this modeled for him. And so it was interesting because I think it was, like, the two parts of me, like, with all, like the trauma of losing my mom and what's gone on with my dad. And so that kind of like anger and sadness. And so I feel like the two characters were, like, the two parts of me. So I cried a lot. But the whole movie just frustrated me because I'm like, people aren't going to take away the positiveness, I think. They're going to be like, that was really nice, but they aren't going to make that change. And that's what frustrates me about things like this. Yeah. What?
No, I'll probably watch it. It's probably going to be on the plane for my upcoming trip, so I'll probably watch it, amongst other things. I don't know.
So when I see you again, when you come back from your travels, and you hold, like, this really soft eye contact, and you're like, how are you? I'll be like, oh, he watched it. And he's suddenly a vegetarian, and he's like, let's hold a minute of silence.
Was he a vegetarian?
Yeah. He said he couldn't imagine killing anything that had a mother, or eating anything that had a mother.
Unfortunately, cows taste good. So not gonna...
But the Impossible Burger is pretty darn good now.
Well, they don't make an Impossible steak.
Or an Impossible Ribs.
Impossible Ribs or Impossible Prime Rib.
They don't. They don't.
Not
Maybe in 10
happen.
years.
Probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So until a couple weeks.
Yes, you have to watch 1917 with me.
I have to get up for that.
It's really good. It's not as heavy as your show.
I'll have to get up for that. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.